Hi everyone, today we'll be discussing the topic dealing with compound disasters on an emergency manager perspective. So I'm incredibly excited to introduce Paul Falavolito, an emergency managing chief from Pittsburgh. Paul has been in EMS for White Oak for over 22 years. He's been there for Hurricane Sandy, Hurricane Irene, and now COVID-19. Unfortunately, we can't be in a video studio together, so Zoom will have to do for now. I'm personally very interested in this topic, and I'm sure a lot of people will gain a lot of value from your insights. So let's get into the questions, Paul, shall we?
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No worries. So yeah, my first question is, for all the craziness that's gone on, what resources, from your perspective, do emergency managers wish they had to better deal in a major crisis like COVID-19?
So I think that what this pandemic is ultimately going to reveal for a lot of people in emergency management is that need to really look back on your existing hazard analysis that you've done for your community or for your county or even for your state. And I think there's going to be a lot of revisions that get made to it, because I can tell you, so I'm a local emergency manager, which means I'm an emergency management person for my community. It's only 6.5 square miles, about 8,000 to 9,000 people. And, years ago, so 5 years ago was the last time we did our hazard and threat analysis. When you look at pandemic, that score is very low.
Definitely.
Right?
Definitely.
It scores very low on what you put all your time and effort into planning for and gathering resources for. And now this happens, and that's going to look differently now moving forward. And what comes with that is also going to be the need for the resources. So prior to this pandemic hitting, we never did virtual meetings. We never had a virtual EOC. We never had a virtual Joint Information Center. But guess what? We have all that stuff now.
Yeah, definitely.
Right? So that's now a great resource that's going to get added to the emergency management toolkit, because now whenever we have those, multiple or compounding disasters all at once, we're going to be able to stand those two things up very quickly and be able to coordinate stuff from truly any location.
Definitely. So that's enabled you, at least, to, because of the rapid response that's been required this time round, that you're kind of building foundations that you wouldn't necessarily have built before to deal with this. Yeah. Okay. Really interesting.
Like I never knew Zoom was a thing until seriously.
Welcome.
I was always a
Welcome
FaceTime guy on my iPhone, but now here's Zoom, and I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever.
It's pretty great. Yeah. And the virtual background's definitely a fun thing to play with. So, and actually that leads really well into the next question. So, as an EMS, what additional complexities are introduced by the pandemic when planning for hurricane season? So talking about that compounding effect and how that's going to affect.
So again, one of the other challenges that we're seeing with this, and for my 22 years being in EMS, we've always relied on our hospital-based supply chain for all the single-use throwaway pieces of PPE or equipment that we use. Now only coming to find out that that's not the case anymore. We can't get the equipment we need, and you're seeing that worldwide being broadcast on all of the mainstream media. So that's obviously a gigantic challenge for future. Now we have to plan as if we are our own little deserted island. And now not only do I have to plan to have some kind of a stockpile of equipment for the normal everyday ambulance calls, but now I also have to expand that thought process to, what if we have severe flooding from, a hurricane? Because where I'm geographically located, we're not going to get a Category 5 impact the way that the coast of the United States is going to get.
Definitely.
What we will get is the state of emergency with the spinning hurricane that sits over us for 3 days, dumping, 2 to 3 inch per hour rain on us, that's going to flood, 40 to 50% of our municipality. So now I need to start thinking about planning and stockpiling stuff for that, because the big kick to the chest that everyone has seen is that the world supply chain can go down like that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And it absolutely has. And that's something that nobody had on their radar, was that what if the world runs out of something?
Yeah.
Right? What if the world runs out of this hand sanitizer? But the world did. So now we have to plan for that moving forward, that supply chains don't exist. That's going to be a monster challenge moving forward, planning for hurricane season, planning for flooding season, because that is probably our number one impact that we get, is flooding in our community.
For sure. And obviously, I mean, very relevant for us, because that's kind of what we focus in. And out of curiosity, when you are dealing with these floods, what kind of predictive tools or forecasting, like how many days do you actually get to prepare for a flood? Or is it just as, the water's rising? How does that usually play out?
So you're going to love the answer to this.
Oh, no.
This is an unfair question to ask me, because I'm very blessed that on my staff for EMS and emergency management, one of our emergency management coordinators has his degree in meteorology.
Oh, that's amazing. There you go.
Penn State Meteorology, which is where all the big USA national weather forecaster people on TV go to.
For sure.
So he knows all those people. So when we talk about weather in our community, we talk about it much differently than the way a lot of people do in their communities. They rely on apps or what the TV is saying. Weather channel is saying, where we have a guy that truly is tied into the National Weather Service, forecasting, the models and everything. So we're getting, as close to real-time info as we get. So when it's anything weather related, he, has that ability to communicate within our team. Usually it's a day or so out is when, because usually he says, anything greater than, 3-4 days, that's going to change. The percentages are going to change going closer to the event. And, so it's usually a day or so is when we start to, get really dialed into what he's telling us. And I'll tell you, I will send you his contact info. If you want to talk weather, you got to do one of these little Zoom things with this guy.
Oh, I definitely will. 100%.
He will make you sit there and think in 40 different directions, and make you look at things much differently.
Yeah, always keen to talk to experts in the field, for sure. And so, you're getting potentially 1 to 2 days lead time. What does that mean for your kind of organization of, your volunteers and your resources?
So one of the things we do exceptionally well in our community is we have already built those bridges with all of our public safety agencies, police, fire, EMS, public works. And we've explained to them this framework concept of emergency management and how it's a whole community approach to solving a problem like flooding or a severe weather event. And so they've all bought into it. They've all understood it. It wasn't always that way, but it took a couple years to really get everybody on the same page. This pandemic right now is really reinforcing and proving the point of the importance of everybody being on the same page and on the same team. And so what that looks like when it's a weather event that's a day or two out, when we have some pretty good confidence levels that something is going to impact us, that's going to impact the infrastructure of our community. Again, we can communicate with all of those department heads and say, hey, these are the hours where we're relatively confident it's going to happen. This is where you want to up staff. We have a flood map for our community that's based off of the 911 calls we've received for flooding.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
So we know where the hot spots are.
Yeah.
We know what percentage of our community is going to be without power. We
Yeah.
know who those people are that are dependent on electricity for medical devices at home. So we have a pretty robust system in place where when we overlay a situation of flooding that could be power outage, that could be people not able to get out and drive
Yeah.
for periods of time, we can spin that up on a map and know where to kind of allocate
Yeah. Right.
those resources towards and get things in place for our residents.
Yeah. Yeah. And in terms of, I mean, as a lot of people say, no disaster is the same. So
Right.
is that map, I mean, it would be helpful, but it's, is it kind of still like, you're using historical data to try and understand that. So is it quite useful every time that you've used it?
Yeah, it's been useful specifically in the last year because it was within the last year is when I sat down and made the map, because
Yeah.
2019 was the first year that, we always associated flooding with some kind of a big storm system,
Right.
like the remnants of a tropical storm or the remnants of a hurricane. But 2019 was the first year for my community that, the normal summer rainstorm was causing flooding that we had never seen before.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
so that's when we started to say, this is what we need to base it off of. Let's not base it off of, a storm that hit 10 years ago that was a once every 10-year event. We need
Mm,
to base this map off of the normal rain that comes within a normal rain season.
yeah.
And so that's what we did.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That's
I mean,
where
it's
you,
just, yeah, it's really interesting to hear. And that's definitely, yeah, I think you're certainly potentially ahead of the curve having that, because, you know, where our solution came about, and I have to do a quick plug just
please
because,
do.
I have to do it. But yeah, our solution came about because we wanted to, instead of using historical data, having real-time inundation maps and depths. So you can actually see, like, at kind of max 10 days before an event hits, exactly, like, you can see on a map exactly where it's growing and where it's going to kind of hit in different areas, and then also the depth. So like, amazing, like the 2019 maps would have definitely been super helpful if there's similar weather events continuously happening. But in the event that, yeah, maybe a more extreme event, even more extreme than that, happens, then potentially it's not as useful. Whereas we're trying to use live data because we're seeing flooding events becoming so much more severe, so much more frequent, that it becomes more and more difficult to use data, even in the past year, with how some of these events are changing. So, but I still think that that's, like, definitely useful. But I think there's, yeah, still kind of limitations in using something that's a year back versus using actual real-time data that can account for, like, climate change and things like
Very
that.
cool.
So yeah, just to jump in, but I won't plug anymore, I promise. And yeah, I think you answered this earlier potentially, but what do you think will be, like, the main learnings from the current crisis? What's going to be, like, what are we going to look back on in 5 years and be like, oh yeah, now we've done XYZ?
Yeah, I believe that number one, and most importantly, the community, the population, is going to pay more attention to those preparedness messages that
Definitely.
emergency management
Yeah.
has been giving out. Um,
Yeah.
the other thing that I think is truly going to come about from this is new partnerships and a new way of thinking,
Mm,
because local home supply stores were never on my radar for purchasing medical equipment.
right. Yeah.
And now we're finding ourselves going there and buying Tyvek suits because none of our major medical suppliers are shipping or can get product right now. So now
Right.
we're literally relying on looking online at all the different home supply stores in the area, sending someone up to go buy, 20 or 30 of these at a pop.
Yeah.
So I think that the other big thing that comes from this is a new list of vendors and partnerships that we have to, when this is all said and done,
Yeah.
take the time to go build those bridges with those people and connect with them so
Definitely.
that they know in the time of the next disaster or crisis, if we call and say, can you set X number of boxes of this product aside, they
Yeah.
will be able to reference back to this and understand the gravity of the situation and the urgent need that we
Definitely.
have for that.
Yeah.
But I truly think that the number one biggest talking point when this is all said and done is going to
Yeah.
be that people are going to realize truly as a world how vulnerable we truly are.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Because in the past you would hear of, you know, a hurricane or a weather event or anything that happens in another country, and you think, oh, we're in this part of the world, that's not going to
Yeah.
impact us. And this is
Exactly.
showing in a short period of time how truly connected we all are, and how
Definitely.
something that happens here can easily disrupt and impact everything here. And unfortunately, people are feeling that with
Definitely.
tremendous suffering right now.
Yeah, and it is just so, yeah, it's so sad to particularly my thoughts go out to you guys and everyone over in the USA. Like, we're headquartered here in Australia, and we've managed to more or less start on the kind of what do you call it, like flattening the curve.
Yeah.
We've already seen early signs of that, which is great. But yeah, seeing the numbers for the USA, I can't imagine how, worried people must be. And yeah, it's not just that toll of um, like the health issue, but also like the mental health issue that so many people would be facing right now.
And
And
that's a gigantic deal right now, and
yeah,
I'll share with you quickly, the
yeah,
perspective.
please.
All the
Sure.
plans in the world are great, right? And even the people that had great pandemic plans
Yeah.
did not have in their plan. Now we're going to lay into that plan the need to tell the people that you're going to get one mask and you have to wear it for the whole shift, and you have to start wearing these single use
Yeah.
medical
Yeah.
equipment over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's the number one thing that I'm seeing that's causing EMTs, paramedics, nurses, and doctors the most psychological challenges.
Mm.
Because, if you've been in the medical field for a long period of time, it's muscle memory to take a pair of gloves off, throw them away, take a glove or a
Yeah,
mask off, throw it
definitely.
away, rip
Definitely.
that gown off.
Yeah.
Um, but now telling people that you're only getting one per shift and you got to make it last and you have to wear it multiple times
Yeah.
is really a gigantic psychological impact on people. Because
Yeah.
yes, we signed up to save lives, yes, we trained to save lives, but we do it with the mindset that we're going to have the proper personal protective equipment
Yeah,
to be able to
exactly.
do that. And like I read a tweet, someone said asking us to rewear the same equipment, in essence is like asking a soldier to wear a piece of cardboard going into battle.
That's
you know
it. Yeah.
that's
And it's not proper PPE, like having a mask,
right.
that's like 1/3 of what PPE is. So yeah, I can imagine that that would put a lot of like mental stress on those who, yeah, we need to protect the most
Absolutely.
so that they can protect other people. So yeah, definitely something that, maybe we weren't ready for, but I think we'll learn a lot from this. And obviously, everyone already loves emergency managers, but now we're even just like so thankful to all of the public servants that have been helping out, across the world. It's just incredible, the kind of like, selflessness really that that you guys are putting out there to save lives. So like, yeah, huge thanks for everything that you've done so far.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So I actually think that is kind of the end of my questions. But this has been amazing. I actually, just love getting an insight into kind of the world of an EMS. And yeah, thank you so much for all of your like service in the past like 20 plus years. It's amazing. And thank you so much for chatting. I'm sure we'll potentially have another segment in the future, and I'd love to speak to your weather guy as well.
I'll send you his info, and anytime if you want to do this again, or even when it's done, the road to recovery from this, I think, is going to be very long for a lot of people.
For sure. It's going to be,
and we're going to feel these impacts for a long, long time. So if you want to do it again, just let me know. I'll be more than happy to jump on with you.
Definitely. And before I kind of sign off, did you want to talk about any interesting things that you're doing? I think you released a book recently.
Yeah, and actually kind of the funny story is I released a leadership book back in September. And because I do a leadership podcast, I also do an emergency management podcast and an EMS podcast. But my publisher's in Australia. He's in Sydney.
Oh, wow. There you go.
So kind of what was neat about this was, when I jumped into starting to first write the book, and I was texting him or emailing him, I was getting frustrated that I wasn't getting timely responses. And then I realized, oh my God, I'm messaging him when he's asleep. So I had to set my clock to Sydney time. And when it was time to do book work, I would operate on that. So when I needed him, I knew that he would be awake and functioning, and I could get the answers to my questions. But so that was a kind of unique story, just to tie us together even more with the Australia United States connection.
Definitely. We typically, we're over in the US half the year, but obviously like we couldn't travel this year, so it's been difficult for us to operate on the time zone because it is almost 11 p.m. at night. But I just have to take calls like late at night and really early in the morning to be on the same time zone. So yeah, commitment to the cause for sure. But we love our US folks, so we'll definitely we'll do it every day. But yeah. Good. Thanks so much, Paul. I might sign off there, but yeah, thank you so much for all of your insight, and good luck with the rest of the crisis and everything that's going to go on, and good luck and stay safe.
Thank you.